Hello, I'm Elgato and welcome back to another live stream on the internet. This is a totally real and 100% not pre-recorded live stream that I'm doing in, today's Let's Play world, because I think it'd be kind of fun to do one of these again. It's been quite a while since I did a live stream replacement, but it's a fun kind of like mini Toy Cat podcast mixed with a Let's Play, mixed with a live stream kind of thing that you might all just enjoy. So here is 40 minutes of entirely off-the-cuff Toy Cat, and honestly, I'm kind of scared because I'm doing this my first attempt. I'm going to try and go through the whole thing, no restarts, no anything like that, and honestly, I'm super scared of that sort of thing, because whenever I'm recording a news video or anything like that, I usually do like 5 or 6 restarts, because I'm like, I said that word just like slightly wrong, because it is terrifying, like, the amount of pressure that builds when you're like, oh no, I'm gonna make a video or whatever, and maybe that's just me being like slightly broken as a person, or maybe that's a real pressure that everyone feels. Anyway, what am I doing in today's live stream replacement? We're gonna be getting a bunch of obsidian, and well, it's mostly about the talking and stuff unrelated to that, but the actual gameplay is gonna be about me getting some obsidian from wherever I can find it, and then making my gold farm just a bit more successful. It's one of those projects I've wanted to do for a while, but it's like, it doesn't really make sense as like a Let's Play thing, but given that we're here not to talk about the Let's Play, instead we're here to talk about some things I wanted to talk about, I figured we could do that regardless. So yeah, I guess, the first thing I wanted to kind of mention is like, what are humans good at in general? And I guess, because, the reason this thought stems, like, so I ask questions a lot. This is something I'm sure you do know if you know me, like, whenever anything comes up, I'm just like, so what about this? What about that? A lot of people just take everything at face value, whereas I'm kind of like the annoying kid. You know how like every child at some age gets to the stage where they just, you ask them this question and they're like, or you tell them to do something and they're like, why? And then you can infinitely go down the series of why questions, because you're never going to satisfy, a child at some level. It's kind of like that with me sometimes, where I'm just like, but why is this like this? And honestly, there's a lot of my interests just come from like, something where I was kind of interested, and then I dug into the weird, why did this dug into this? It's kind of like, flying. There's so many weird, like, not loopholes, but like semi-loopholes in flying, where it's like, oh, so you do that because, oh yeah, it turns out back in the 80s or 90s, they used to do it this way, and now they don't want to stop it because it upset too many people, so now there's a weird way to abuse that, and then it digs into more and more, like, oh, so they fly these planes, because basically, like, any hobby, anything like that I got into just because I kept asking, like, the simple question of, like, oh, so why this, why that, etc., and I was thinking about it in the shower this morning. Shower's where all the best thinking is done, I think we can agree. I think the ability to ask why on something is truly the humanity's like greatest thing, right? So okay, I know this is sound like a big kind of thing, but let me start by just saying, like, think about what is the one thing that humans do different to every other animal. Like, why is it that we as humans, we have guns and explosives and cars and, like, science and, like, we know about the planet, whereas, animals, they just kind of, like, eat grass, and if they're a really smart animal, they'll use humans for food, but that's about all they can do. Why is it us? And the simple explanation you'll always hear about if you ever read into it is like, oh yeah, well, because humans, we developed tools, right? Like, we worked out, how to turn things, objects into tools for us that made our life a little bit easier, and then that combined with, so then we could start to farm, have a consistent way of doing that, then we worked out how to have surplus, like labor, and boom, suddenly that goes magically into the, also, does this lead into the game cave? It does. So we're just gonna cut across here, I guess, and try and, there we go, that's where I want to be. I wonder, there didn't used to be a hole there. It used to be able to connect all the way through. But anyway, basically that's the thing that made, humans better than everything else. We can use tools, which we use to make surplus, like labor, surplus skill, which then, people could do things besides just feeding, keeping us alive, and reproducing. Because the only two, like, traits in the world that, like, are naturally selected for, like, are, I guess, the only two things that a species needs to do to survive is to reproduce and is to survive. Like, survive, then reproduce, and boom. Because reproduction is just like survival, but like beyond the level. So yeah, I was thinking about, like, so what do humans do good? I think, in the current age, it's ask questions. Think about it. Like, the only, like, special, thing that we actually really do, because, someone had to look at, like, a pointed stick and go, oh, that hurt me. Can I use this hurt for something? And, and any question like that comes down to, like, you have to think about something and then wonder, what would it be like if something was different? Being able to conceptualize something, or being able to question or wonder about something that doesn't exist, that is truly what makes, again, humanity much better. And it's actually funny because when we've done a bunch of, like, interactions with apes, trying to get another animal to talk, because, again, that would be a huge breakthrough if we could make that happen, right? But we've spent a lot of time, with, particularly, again, like I said, apes and stuff like that, trying to get them to, oh no, there's lava down there, trying to get them to talk to us. And although there's some success with getting them to answer our questions, like again, you can actually teach certain monkeys sign language and stuff like that. There has never been a situation. The one thing that we can never, no animal has ever been taught to do is to ask questions of us. The animal doesn't understand that the world has, the world and other people know knowledge. The thing itself doesn't. And I find that to be just fascinating because that is truly the hugest difference between like an animal, right, and a thing. Like the ability to know that other things have knowledge that you don't. And if you think about the difference between like a smart functioning human and like someone who's not doing well, is someone who's willing to realize that there is a better way to do something. It's just out there somewhere. Think about it, like how much better you do something where if you just try and do something because again, there's a part of most people that's like, nah, I can do it the old-fashioned way, just like, a similar piece of furniture without the guide. But think about the stuff that you do the best. It's because you watched the tutorial or something. Like, even think about video games. Like, how much better people have gone at any game. You can think Fortnite, you can think Minecraft, you can think anything like that. The tutorial videos I make, in a way, they help other people reach into the world and gain that knowledge. And that's something that only humans can do. I mean, I'm admittedly, there probably aren't many monkeys out there that are going to look up Minecraft tips and tricks. But my point isn't necessarily about those. It's about the fact that that's the big thing we can do different. And that's why I think asking questions is always a good thing. I think because every now and then you run into a situation where like it's a taboo thing to ask questions, where it's like, nope, things just happen the way they work. But the society where you can ask questions, where you can try and do things better, that is the one that always succeeds in the long run. And I find that to be interesting. And it was just something I was thinking about a lot this week. Like, people like to put it like, oh yeah, humans, the thing that we do so great is we can, we invented tools first and we're smarter than other animals. But like, some animals are really smart. They can do really complex maneuvers that, again, a human can't do in that same field. But the reason that we are so smart is because we can kind of combine our smartness together, right? Like, collectively. In the same way, think about like, also, free obsidian, how nice. But if you think about, any like a hive mind civilization, how scary that sounds. You're like, oh yeah, that is kind of nuts. Like, humans are basically that we don't do it very efficiently, but like if someone knows something, you can find that knowledge from them because they probably put it into the world for some reason. We have like a system that incentivizes people to share that knowledge, and I don't know, I find that cool personally. Maybe you don't, but that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, just because I wonder if there's something magic to that. Like, oh yeah, well the solution is just to have, because the fact that animals can't do that, it was like one of those things. I was like, every now and then I sit down, I'm like, I wonder if there's something you can do about that. I wonder if, like, okay, animals won't ask us questions. What can we do to fix that? And the simple answer is like, no. Without something else trying to improve itself, without something else knowing it needs to, there's not much you can do, that. I think that's actually the big separator between, again, like, the human brain, the fact that we feel consciousness. Like right now, this messes me up whenever I think about it. But the only thing that is keeping, you like to think of yourself as being this complex, mythical, thing that exists inside your head, right? Like, oh yeah, me right now, I am, I don't even hear this body is just a thing I use to get around, but I'm this weird, non-existent entity of some form. Like, I mean, most people probably struggle to think about it, and maybe I'm getting you existential just by mentioning this, but the point I'm trying to raise when I bring that up is that, see, one take, really hard. It's not every now and then, just like, when you do those, like, pretend hiccups, or, like, and it's like, oh, I couldn't talk for 3 seconds there. But, yeah, basically, your brain your brain is made up of a bunch of atoms down to any level you want to take it down to. It's like cells, and then it's synapses, and then cells, and then atoms, and you can go down like to any level you want to on the brain, right? But it can be replicated in some way, and if you replicated the brain, you would replicate the consciousness that comes along with it. We don't understand how exactly the consciousness is made, and I really hope we never do on a like personal level, because once you understand that, then the specialness of being you and being alive is kind of lost a little bit, right? Like right now, oh no, I'm gonna live. No, I'm gonna survive. I'm survived. That's top-notch English right there. I knew I could do it if I used the water bucket at just the right time. Now all slimes have to die. It's just how this one's going. Jeez, I'm in a slime chunk right now. It's really terrible. Anyway, so, but yeah, your brain is like just a collection of like. So there is something in your brain. We don't understand it, despite all the science and research that we obviously want to do, but we just don't understand exactly how your brain can understand that it exists, you know? Like, because, you know, it's kind of funny, like, it raises the big question of, like, can a brain ever understand itself? Because, you know, if the brain gets bigger, it gets harder to understand, which means you need more, like, you know, complexity, more understanding to, you know, get through it, which means that, you know, so on and so forth. Like, can the brain ever come to understand itself? It's like one of the big philosophical questions at the time or whatever. But as soon as we work that out, then, you know, the specialness of you being you as a person goes down to like, oh no, actually we can sum it down to like, oh, here you can see you've got 10% more melatonin than other people, which is why that you feel, you know, that people are unclean sometimes, or like, you see, you have 6% more Benadryl than, you know, the guy next to you, the average person. And once you can like work things down to a chemical level, I don't know, I just feel like you ruin a lot of the magic in a person. And obviously, once we've worked it out, it'll be wonderful because we can do stuff with that. But for now, it's just more like, oh yeah, you know, as soon as you meet someone, you know that person's unique. Every single person I've met people. I meet a lot of people, willingly and unwillingly. Every single person I seem to meet, there are patterns. But there's always something about them where it's like, this is a unique blend. Like again, like the pattern recognition is not a great thing. The pattern recognition is never perfect. It's just like, oh yeah, you can learn how to deal with certain people. You can learn how not to deal with other people. Like you know, in public, if I speak to someone and they're just angry, I've learned like, oh, angry person means deal with them by just like either ignoring them, or if I have to talk to them, just like vaguely agree with what they're saying. Like it's it's the best way to do public interactions. You're never going to meet this person again, so there's no point having nuanced opinions on this or that. Just be like, yeah, whatever you're complaining about sure does suck, doesn't it? And then they feel the camaraderie, and there you go. You've got a great interaction going on there. So yeah, I feel like the human brain is scary. I kind of wish we don't work it out, because then you'll just understand yourself, and because until we work out how to fix it. But once you fix it, then what is a fixed human brain where everyone's exactly the same, you know? And it's like, oh, that sounds a bit messy. Because the answer is yes, but no one is comfortable with the answer being yes. Which actually, I think it's one of the most interesting things about like the ethical questions we raise all the time. Because, for instance, nowadays you can change your baby, like if you're rich, I think. Like it's not available for most people, sorry, but there is services where you can actually change how your baby will look. You can give it the blonde gene or the ginger gene. You can do what you want with your baby if you spend a lot of money, as far as I know, or maybe it's like near future, but it's definitely been trialed in some places. I know it can exist, even if it doesn't exist. So, you know, a lot of people go like, whoa, that's messed up. No, you should accept any child you want. Like, if your child is disabled, you know, you shouldn't be able to undo that because, you know, that's part of their personality. But it's like, actually, I think if given the choice before birth, if someone could jigger me and make me like 10% better at whatever I like to do, like, you know, I've always thought that, oh no, not again! How does this happen twice in one Let's Play? How does this even happen? Oh gosh. Okay, I'm alive. This is, see, live stream. You know, there are just too many slimes spawning around here. This is not a safe place for me to be collecting obsidian from. I'll just go somewhere else and do it, honestly. Like, I think that'd be a better idea. But yeah, so I think I think as soon as we've worked out, like, I think all the ethical questions that get raised are always just like, well, you think that because you were born before it was an option. Like, a lot of things change over time, and although you know, whether you should, I think there is a big argument in favor of the way things are right now, because again, what we're doing right now is really good. A lot of people don't appreciate that the world is going really, really well right now. Like, again, you watch the news and you speak to people, like, the easiest thing to say is be cynical and to be like, oh, everything sucks. But the world is actually going pretty darn amazing right now. Like, again, it's not popular, there are a lot of things wrong with it, and it's easy to complain about those things. But the fact that we have gone from a point where, like, again, we're like basically monkey runoff species, and we turned that into, like, now we own the world, and not only have we owned the world, but every year we get better at, like, you know, turning the resources from the world into real things for real people. Like I heard a thing that, like, even if you were the richest man alive, even 180 years ago, you would live a worse life than, like, you know, pretty much anyone today. Like, even the lowest, like, 20% of people, because of, like, all the new developments we have. Like, again, if you want to have literally a meal made for you in 10 minutes, you probably have a, you know, drive to, like, how many fast food places they'll do that for you. And you know, compare that to like, you know, a man having a banquet or something. It's like, yeah, actually, quite a lot better today than we were even 100 years ago. And think about like how long humans have been around, like the thousands of years. Even if you're the best off human, and my point being is humanity's doing pretty darn great. Like even the fact that like as a whole, and that's me talking about the best of the worst. Let's talk about best of the best or the worst of the worst. Think about like, you know, the fact that, you know, if you're rich, if you're like somehow you do something amazing for society, or like, you know, you just happen to be born rich, whatever, you know, rich thing you want to think about. It like 200 years ago, it's like, oh yeah, I can like, I guess I can buy lots of food and I have influence with my local community. Whereas nowadays it's like, oh yeah, so I'll ride the first class hotel in the sky, and then I've obviously got, you know, a $5 million car that goes this fast and makes everyone love me for this reason. And then, you know, there's all these benefits to like being rich. And even, again, like compare the poor of like, oh yeah, even now, even if you're struggling to eat, something like that basic, it's like, oh yeah, so it used to be that you were like indentured to the land, and if you tried to leave the land, then that would be like an offense punishable by like serious, I think, death, something like that. But like, it's like, whoa, yeah, that's like hundreds of years. If you're over thousands of years, it's like the fact that we make progress as a civilization. Like other animals only make progress because like, you know, evolution, or I think evolution's controversial in America, where a lot of my viewers are from. So evolution or your own belief on the matter, wrong or right. But no, more seriously, like, you know, like other animals just kind of coincidentally. Oh no, okay, let's not do this. Other animals basically get coincidentally better, whereas humans, we're like actively always, you know, like we're working on ourselves. We're like, we worked out how to use that nature secret of like, oh yeah, over time, better stuff gets better, worse stuff gets worse, and we've like made it into our civilization. That is insane, and that's something I feel like we need to have like a human appreciation day, is what I'm saying here. We need to just have a day a year where we're like, okay, so, you know, we're doing some things wrong. We all think we should be doing, you know, we have different opinions on how things could be going better. But can't we just all agree that as a species, we're doing pretty darn well right now? I think that'd be good. Like, we don't take enough time just to say, yeah, humans, we're good. Because a lot of people, we get into this whole thing of like self-hate, because, you know, people like to, I guess, categorize people into groups and be like, this group good, this group bad. But we should all just be like pro-human, I feel like. Like a lot of people even are like, oh, because I feel like one of the biggest causes of like, so again, I feel like depression is a thing that's like seriously on the rise, right? And as a teenager, it's something I felt like all the time, non-stop. So that's my own like local source for this one. But like, yeah, I think it's not an unfair statement to say like, yep, more people depressed now than ever, right? Probably a thing. And I'm not saying this is like a direct causation, correlation, whatever. But I think there's got to be like some amount of link between that and like, so again, the basic thing we do as like a species is like, what do? We gotta, I guess we're gonna fly down here. We gotta survive, and oh no, you know, screw this. I'm just gonna go get more obsidian first, because I've got like 80 of it right now. Actually, no, that's enough to build up these things. And by the way, this is my gold farm. I farm gold here. It's a pretty nice gig. Gets me some XP too, which is always good. And if I use the looting sword, like you better believe I'm gonna, I get even more gold nuggets, which eventually turns into gold, and will eventually turn into part of my beacon. I hope, anyway. But yeah, back to what I was saying. So, oh, it looks like I have more of the obsidian rows to be doing anyway. So we'll work on some of these, because like that's an easy enough thing to do, I believe. So just copy, paste, place this all along there, and it's all good. So, yeah, I feel like one of the big reasons like sadness is like happening now more than ever is because of this whole like that everyone just wants to believe that everything is terrible all the time. And there's again lots of terrible things, but like the fundamental things that make people happy, make people good in the world, I believe anyway, are like, oh yeah, so the two primary things that like no one can refute are good for, like, again, it's like, you know, how I said like survive, reproduce, or whatever. It's like those two things actually, you know, pretty good. But you have to, I feel like for surviving to mean something, you have to like really be on board with what you're surviving for. Because, you know, nowadays, like, it used to be like, you do some real physical stuff with your life, and be like, yeah, I did some stuff. Yeah, you're satisfied with it. Whereas nowadays, like, everything, whether it's entertainment, your job, your whatever, you're just doing like vague abstractions of what's real. Like right now, I'm playing Minecraft. This is my entertainment. Yeah, I have quite a bit of fun playing Minecraft. Maybe you do too. Wouldn't that be a happy coincidence? But you know, it's like it's a series of pressing buttons. Whereas before you'd be like, I'm gonna go, you know, like hammer a fence into a thing or whatever. Like, or just do something like real, intense and physical. And the difference between, also a lot of these aren't even lit. I should go do that sometime. But okay, try and stay just a little bit on topic. But it's crazy interesting because the okay, so this takes like too much of my focus, it seems. But yeah, I feel like you need to like be on board with the idea of like, yeah, actually, there's some good stuff going down, and I could do good stuff by doing this or that. And I feel like that's what makes survival better. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but because whenever I sometimes every now and then, like, I don't know how often, like more often than you probably expect, I'm just like overcome by like a deep sadness, whether you want to call that like a deep depression, a deep whatever. I'm not gonna get into that, but like just a deep pit of just feeling like all of a sudden nothing matters, and it's just darkness, sadness, and like why am I even bothering? You know, like what is this? The things I want right now, they're pointless. The things I wanted before, that's pointless too. But I feel like the big thing one of the things that I tried to do to like overcome that, because that's like a serious that's bad, right? I think we can all agree, like whether that happens to you or not, that like, yeah, actually you probably shouldn't. You should aspire to be in a world where you don't get overcome by feeling like it's nothingness. So yeah, I tried to like ask like, so what is this feeling even? Like why does it matter in the first place? And why does it stop mattering all of a sudden? You know, like what's the big deal there? Like there's some real contradictions going on here. Also, I definitely can't mine this. I'll go find some more obsidian. There's going to be plenty of it around, I'm sure. But yeah, so like, you know, I try to ask myself like, what is the source for it all? And it always comes down to like, I guess technically speaking, everything is pointless. Like you can always dig down and easily argue that everything's pointless. It's something about the human brain, or maybe just about the way everyone feels these days, always can easily be, again, turned into, oh yeah, it's all pointless because, you know, like the same reason the news can just sell you on like, oh, look how bad the world is today. Because the cynical part of your brain is just always, oh, it seems to be more active than the other parts or something. Like it's just one of those weird things. Like, oh yeah, being cynical way easier than being proactive about something. But it really is like, if you try and think about why do I do anything, the simple answer is I don't know. Why are you watching this video? Like, I guess I had some time and I wanted to hear Toycat ramble on about humans and asking questions. So I try to think like, where did this come from? And it's like, you can't really say that. It's just a random part of your brain activated. And it's like, what good does it do me to think like this? Not really that much. I think asking the questions to your own brain is a really good way to fix it, because you realize like, oh, this seems like it's a really important thought, but it's really just like your brain glitching out almost or whatever. And I feel like, again, that's a really weird thing to like describe your own brain as, like, oh, brain.exe has stopped running. But again, I feel like the real reason for it is just that I guess people feel, I guess people feel like bummed out by something or other, and then that turns into a whole like kind of cyclical thought. But it's got to be like some, you know, again, when you take it down to like the core level of like your brain is made from these things, that things, it's like, oh yeah, there's clearly like some easy to describe chemical processes that are happening. Like maybe you ate just the wrong diet so that it can control you. You know, a lot of people get super angry when they eat the wrong food, and it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should eat the food that doesn't make you angry. And yeah, when you realize that like, oh, it's out of your control, it's then like, oh, so I'm not really in control of anything. And the answer is like, no, you are still in control. You know, you still decide what you do, but you also sometimes are under influence of other things. Like if we all decided what we did truly, you know, I said earlier like, wow, isn't it amazing all the things you can do? The things you can do if you're like trying hard, or like it. Right now, not everyone is doing the things they want to do, and that's an interesting thought to have, right? That people don't do the things that they like. Why would you not do the thing you want to do? Why would you do anything else? Because there are other factors that lead you into those things, and it's kind of like that with why do you feel sad? You don't want to feel sad. No one ever sets out and is like, you know, today I don't have anything to do. I think I'd like to get a bit bummed out, feel bad about the world. I think actually after like a breakup, sometimes you feel like that. You're like, you know, it doesn't feel right to feel good yet. But you know, besides that, like most most normal people in most normal situations, I would say, maybe I'm not a normal person, not in a normal situation, don't wake up and think, you know, I'm gonna feel sad. It's just like, it kind of happens to you. And I guess that's why the only advice I ever could like fix my, so I always, because so many people ask like, oh, it's okay, what's the thing with? And let me just clarify, this is not good advice. This is bad advice. This is literally the opposite of good advice. But it'd always be for me like, okay, make things as happy as they can be. Do things you want to do, you know? And when it comes to like, whenever the sad thing pops up, it's just like, struggle as hard as you can in your mind, which is impossible. Like it's basically like basically having to fight yourself, like in some weird boss battle. It's just like, nah, actually, continue on current path, outweight it, you know, essentially. Because, you know, it's to me at least, it feels like it's a boss battle where you're like, oh yeah, I'm feeling super depressed or whatever right now. You know, what is the solution? The solution is like, at some point, if you wait it out, that spark of a feeling goes away. I don't know. You know, that spark might take, you know, days or weeks, but even at some point it will. But like, once the feeling goes, a lot of people are like already stuck in the point of like, yes, this is me now, this is a thing. Like that's why I'm always a little bit like confused when people make being depressed like a part of their identity. You want it, because that's the exact opposite of like how do you avoid something that you don't want to do. Like, you know, if you're in school and you don't want to be known as the kid who eats grass. I think I mentioned once, like, I ate grass to try to impress someone once. It's definitely the exact opposite of my proudest moment. But you know, like when you like how do you stop doing these things? It's like, oh yeah, you gotta stop that from happening. Don't let your identity and that thing be confused. It's actually, you know, your identity comes up in a load of different things. So as a YouTuber, for instance, a lot of people now, because I've been playing Minecraft for years now, will be like, Minecraft YouTuber. They'll be like, pen you into that hole, and then they'll say, oh yeah, and therefore, because, you know, then they assume Minecraft is good game, therefore you equals kid YouTuber, whatever. It's like, well, I mean, actually, I think I'm like one of the few guys who like doesn't do that whole like, because, you know, like I've said it before, like pandering that way is actually, it's not only just an easy decision, it's like a good business decision, you know. Also, why isn't this turning into cold ice or whatever? But my point being is that you want to like, you can actually define your identity kind of, or at least help other people define it. I know this is like bad advice, and it's like again, I'm gonna give a lot of bad advice today. But like, for instance, like if you're getting called like a name you don't like, then if you react negatively to it, you know, like by your friends or whatever, then that encourages them to do the same thing. So the trick is, you've got to make it feel awkward, so that they just go, ooh, what'd I do there? And it's one of my favorite things to do to people, because then they're like, oh, don't really want to do that again. you again, like I feel like the pro tip with any particular thing is like, why is, okay, there we go. Yeah, I feel like you don't let bad things define you, because once other people see you as that thing, there's like an internal pressure to succumb and be the same thing. Like I've said before, like character masks are a thing, right? Like you are different to every person in your life. You're different to your friends than how you are with strangers, than how you are with your parents, than how you are with you know, your romantic lover, whatever your examples are. But you know, you're different to different people in your life. It's character masks, and that kind of explains that like when you're with that person, it kind of changes you. Whenever I meet old friends that I haven't met in years, a tiny part of me actually does change. Like the person I am now, and the person, like, it doesn't become, I'm not the same quite person. Maybe you guys don't have that experience. Maybe I'm crazy. Again, I'll leave that as an option. Like maybe I'm just crazy, and this is all my my own insane thoughts. But I will say that that every time I meet like old friends, like a tiny part of my brain shifts and like my behavior is slightly different. I'm not shifting. I'm not consciously trying to do anything, but it happens anyway. And I think defining yourself with good things rather than bad things. Like people always give like terrible advice. I mean, maybe it works for them, but it's like, dress for the job you want to have, not for the job you have. It's like, I mean, it's not like you get like hired based on dressing the right way. That's actually not how they decide who gets the job. But you know, it's kind of the same thing of just like, once people see you as being a thing, they'll act like you are, and then it's a little bit easier on you to do the thing. Like, you know, right now, if I even if you, I guess that's my whole point there. Like, just don't identify with like terrible things, because, or like, don't identify. Honestly, you know, my favorite thing would be like, don't identify with anything at all. I think that's like impossible for humans to do. But like, if you can't avoid doing that, just identify things that you like. You know, just like that you think you should want to do. Because it's really interesting that like, again, you're two people, essentially. Again, if I'm crazy, just tell me and be like, ah, well, now I got an insight into the crazy man's mind. But I feel like, at the very least, okay, so we're gonna go and craft all these into some planks, get them on the thing, and then we'll have more nether portal capacity. But I feel like there is two parts of your brain. There's the part of you that's working right now, or not working, the part of you that's doing something right now, that just decides what to do on a moment-by-moment basis, and there's the part of you that, like, I guess wants to do things. I don't know how to quite describe it, but there's a part of you that's deciding moment to moment, and then there's a part of you that's thinking. The deep thoughts of, like, am I real? Or, like, you know, like, oh, what do I want to be when I grow up? Or, like, how, you know, like, how do I feel about this? All the really deep parts of you, like, feel like they're an entirely different person. And I think the truth, I think the actual, like, truth to, like, having a successful, healthy, or whatever life is just balancing two separate parts of the same person. It's just like, oh yeah, all you gotta do is you gotta, you know, realize that that's a different... Also, I don't have a crafting table up here. How sad. But, yeah, a lot of, like, being successful in life is just working out. So you've gotta, you know, long-term you, because long-term is more important than short-term, has to kind of trick short-term you into doing things for long-term you. And it's like, you know, it goes to show of, like, oh yeah, don't have other people see you in a way that you, like, you feel pressured to do these things in the short term. That's a good thing. Again, being pressured into things isn't good unless the things you're being pressured into are good also. So, you know, that's a valuable little lesson right there. So I guess I need to do that and then make a bunch of trapdoors. But yeah, basically, I think one of the things that is good is, like, being able to set your long-term goals, set your short-term goals so they work towards your long-term goals. Because no one can wake up in the morning and be like, okay, so I want to be the CEO of this company, which means I have to do X, X, and Z. But it's more like, oh yeah, you wake up at 7, you've already got your day planned, and it's like, oh, I need to be doing this amount of work. You've got, like, plans for, like, this year, and it says, like, oh, I've got to do this and that, whatever. And it works for anything else too. Like, oh, momentary you doesn't ever want to exercise, but long-term you wants to be in shape. I mean, what you can do is you let the two parts of your brain think something different. That's, oh, darn it. That's technically entirely fine. Or if you want to, like, be realistic about it, you want to, like, have something be achieved there, then what you do instead, okay, let's keep going on with this. What you do instead is you set it up so, like, oh yeah, I wake up in the morning, I have to go to the gym. Just have to, you know, like, I think, like, every piece of advice in life that is, like, helping you do something like that you don't really want to do, the simple advice is just like, oh yeah, you just gotta trick future you into doing things. You just gotta have, like, little tricks for yourself so that, like, by default you're doing that. Because I think your day-to-day brain, like, your you all the time, is just doing the easiest thing. Like, the easiest thing is to eat unhealthy and to, you know, be depressed and to, I mean, as in, like, again, I don't ever say depression is a choice, because it's totally not. I think people who say that are, like, pretty out of touch. But it's like, you know, just to do things that will lead to depression, like to just lay in bed all day, to never go outside. Like, I sometimes, like, have the issue where, like, in my ideal world, I don't think I would speak to humans, like, ever. Maybe once a week or something. So, like, you know, I don't set up my days with... I prefer to avoid human interaction in my days. But every now and then, you actually need it, or your brain will, like, actually die. I mean, actually die is a bit of an exaggeration. But it's not good for you to... I'm gonna try and grab the ladder, and now I can place them along here. But it's especially bad for you to not speak. Like, it just, you know, humans are social creatures or whatever. So you need to get that in there. So, yeah, you need to trick your... Let's do this. I only got one that time. But you need to trick your long-term brain into doing short-term things. And then I think that's really what success is. And maybe I'm mistaken in that. I really should make more huge portals. In fact, I have a huge portal. I should light said huge portals. How do I do that? I get a flint, I get a steel. It's weird that I don't carry around either of those things on me. Oh, I do. How perfect. I have a box filled with said things. So yeah, well, before we go here, because I've got some more things I kind of want to talk about as we get this thing going. It's weird how little progress you can make in half an hour when you're working on a build that is this big, right? It's kind of crazy in its own little way. But yeah, go back to what I was saying then. So I think that I think you know, Bridges dying, pretty sad. Can I mention that again? Because I think about this non-stop, like, working out why you feel the way you do It's kind of like, you know how people go to therapists a whole bunch? And now we've collectively agreed as society that that's good. I think, maybe I'm outdated in my assumptions on that. But I think that it's generally accepted as a good thing that we work out what's going on in our brains. Because if you don't work out what's going on in your brain, then you'll make really weird decisions based on said stuff. Also, I need to place a lot of trapdoors. Fortunately, I happen to have just... Oh no, I need to get out of this. Oh no! The problem is this doesn't link into the Bright Never portal on the way back. So I'm just going to go somewhere random, I think. Or back to my house, maybe? I'm not even sure. Apparently the portal doesn't know either. But yeah, I wanted to explain the whole, like... Because actually, let me finish my little thing here, because I really do feel like the understanding every thought you have and why you have aversions you do, it's really good because you can then correct for it when it's bad. So again, to explain that a little bit better, like if you... There was something I wanted to bring, I think. Ladders. I need a bunch of ladders. And I happen to have a nice little chest full of them. Somewhere in the world. I mean, I thought I had them. Oh, there we go. 64 ladders. Easy. Now we can work on this more. So we'll go to sleep. We'll head over there. And then I'll mention that, yeah, I think understanding yourself is one of the most tricky things to do. Like, I've always thought it's crazy that, like, you can try and explain other people, and you can do a pretty good job at it pretty easily. Like I said, how people fit into, like, groups, and you always try and, like, group song, because, again, humans like to group things together. And when I meet someone, I'm like, they're like this. Speak to them like that. You know, they have to switch from things up to get people to like you, because, I mean, people like different things, and sometimes you just need to be liked by everyone. I don't know. My point being is, you can fit people into easy categories, but you can never fit yourself into a category. Or you can, but it takes, like, an intense amount of doing. Like, it's really hard for me to assign myself personality traits. Like, because, again, most personality traits aren't purely good. Most are unflattering, in fact. Like, even the ones that are good, you know, to yourself, it doesn't seem like it's a good thing. So, I mean, for instance, like, I look at my brain and I work out, like, oh, I'm, like, slightly more untrusting of a lot of people in some ways. And I don't like to talk to people. I try not to inconvenience people if it's possible on any sense of that word. Like, I try to avoid it. So what can we gather from that? You can gather that, like, either I like to not annoy people, or you can gather, like, whenever I talk to people, it leads to, like, some amount of, like, stress or pain or whatever in my brain. And then you can be like, oh, that comes from somewhere, probably. And I think understanding these things about yourself then makes you realize when you're like, again, because I'd rather not deal with people a lot of the time. It's like, oh, you have to deal with them for this reason. It's like, oh, just, you know, like, being able to correct your biases and being like, oh, the only reason you're not doing this thing, no. The only reason you're not doing this thing is because you just don't want to deal with the people. It's like, actually, I guess I probably should be doing that thing anyway, right? How did I just do that? Oh, you can place trapdoors on top of themselves now. That's cute. Let's keep going with this, though. So is this correctly done? It is. But yeah, basically, being able to correct for your biases is a really good thing. I think in general, in any aspect of life. I'm just going to knock this guy down. I'm sorry. Sorry about this, pal. Sorry, I didn't mean to do it. Okay, so being able to correct for your biases is really good in any aspect of life. Because, again, the easiest thing for any brain to do is just to... It's like the whole, you know, short-term brain, long-term brain thing. If you just... if you don't correct, then what just ends up happening is your short-term brain dominates everything. And your short-term brain makes a lot of, like, ridiculous analyses, decisions, etc. So yeah, for instance, I have to look at myself and be like, well, you see, you know, should I be scared of my house being robbed right now? Well, I am slightly more paranoid than average, so, like, it's probably just me on the inside. On the other hand, there were, like, 3 robberies in my area. Like, literally, within my, like, 5 street area, like, within 100 houses, there was 3 robberies last month, and it's like, that is probably slightly higher. Maybe I should have some security. Being able to, like, know that, like, oh, part of the reason is you. Because otherwise you'd be, like, freaking out, like, oh my god, I was scared of it, and then it's happening, and now let's just buy everything. Or, like, being able to look at a thing and be like, oh yeah, so I hate, I don't know loud noises, but, like, babies and, I guess, you know, I guess baby noises, really. I was going to be like, you know, I hate fireworks like a cat. I like to run inside, but I mean, I can deal with pretty much any loud noises, except baby screaming, because baby screaming is something where, like, we're biologically programmed to hate it, so we want to fix it, right? But one, I mean, even if I wanted to fix it, it's not even socially acceptable in public to try and fix someone else's baby, right? Like, I'd get arrested pretty fast if I tried to do something like that. So, oh no, not again. Not dealing with that again. So, yeah, I think it's like crazy that like you can just bring this loud alarm in public that will, again, it causes like a deep amount of like psychological upset to anyone nearby. And it's like, it's just okay. And a lot of places encourage it. And it's like, I understand why, because you can't treat the parents like they're not people. But also, I feel like sometimes you gotta be realistic about it. Like, if you're going on a plane, I don't know, like, surely there should be some solution for this. Like, get a bubble that, gets the noise. Because otherwise it's like turning your problem into everyone else's problem. And that's something I really don't like. And then you can look down and be like, oh, I wonder if there's some reason why I don't like the idea of people turning their problem into other people's problems. Because most people, society as a whole, has agreed, like, yeah, actually, if you are a mother, you should be able to do that. And I can totally see that is the set of values we have agreed on as a people, as a country or whatever. But it's also like, oh, so you dig into these things and you realize more and more. And, let me just mention right now that, like, yeah, it's so, but then you can also work that out and be like, oh, I'm trying to avoid this place. But it's mostly because of the, the children that will be there and it will be super loud. So it's like, oh, therefore I should do this. Or like, I'm mostly afraid. Like, okay, so it's like how I said, like, I deliberately don't aim the channel at kids. It's not a thing I've ever intended to do. I don't think it's a thing I ever will intend to do. Because honestly, it makes me, it makes me cringe a little bit when people are just like, oh yeah. So I've given up all pretense of having this be a good channel for like normal people to watch. And it's all on the kids, because that's where the money's at. Or, so for some people it's a true passion in just entertaining children. I'll give them that. But, yeah, so for a lot of people, yeah, their whole, like, passion is directed towards this. And it's like, actually, I don't like that personally. I would prefer to direct things my own way. But realizing that some of that is just like, oh yeah, but you hate dealing with people that can't form their own reasonable, rational, whatever thoughts. That's got to be something. Anyway, my point, because, yeah, that's a big problem you get. So, yeah, I don't know if I made any points there, but I do want to just say, knowing what's wrong with you so you can correct your biases is like a really key skill. And the way you get there is by asking questions. You ask questions about, like, why do I feel this way? Why do I want to do this? Why am I doing things that are leading into bad situations? That's how you do well. Oh, gosh. That is literally the difference between someone, I feel like, who's doing super well in life. Like, what even does doing well in life mean, right? Like, having a lot of money, being, like, in shape, like, having, being famous in some way. I'm just saying that last one so I can feel good, but, because I mean, what is the actual, real definition of, also, I'm gonna go hold those zombie Pikmin. I know this is, like, ADD hour, but I just want the golden nuggets. But, yeah, you can't really define it in any way, but the ways that people do try and define it are also, they're pretty narrow. The difference between doing well in terms of money and doing badly is what, like, being comfortable versus struggling. And it's like, well, I mean, difference between that, it's not a huge difference really when you think about it. The difference would be in the, the percentage points of how well you manage your money or how much money you earn or whatever precise thing. What's the difference between someone who's doing really well at fitness and someone who's doing bad at fitness? Because health is like a big thing that like people feel good about, especially later in life. It's like, oh yeah, it's literally the difference between eating, like 500 extra calories a day will lead you to, like, because that works out as a pound a week. I think, yeah, it's 3,500 calories per pound of fat, like extra on top of your BMI, I think it's called. Not your BMI, your average, your metabolic resting rate, whatever it's called, the thing you eat every day. It's like, oh yeah, so a pound a week, you add that up over a year, that's 52, and then you add it up, and then it's like, what? Yeah, literally, 2 Snickers bars a day is the difference between the best of the best, like being in shape, and being the worst you can be on that level. When you think about literally anything, like, oh, how happy you are, it's as simple as how many happy things and how positive do you feel versus have you assigned yourself just to being like that forever. And although in a lot of cases it gets more complex than that, some people have to play on hard mode, but for most people the game is on easy mode, but we don't have to do it. And I'm not, just let me clarify this because that almost sounds preachy. I am really bad at all the above things. All of the, I think I don't do particularly great at all of those things. Even though I just explained how easy it technically is, it's still like, oh yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle, you know, like doing it all the time. But it is an easy set of things. It just feels impossible because as soon as you break, oh, I've got more of these to place. As soon as you break down a goal into being lots of, oh, there's the portal back here I wanted to light. That's why I want. That's a key thing. Once you have a goal that's not as simple as like do the thing, you've got an abstract goal, like, you know, say for instance, you wanna, you know, like be in shape or whatever. It's like really tricky to work out the direct steps there. If you're thinking all day about like I'd love to be in shape, you're not correlating that with, you know, all the times that you're eating, all the times you're doing minor exercise, heavy exercise. You just correlate it with like, you know, if I think it hard and it will happen and I make these next steps. But if you change the goals into more easy, I don't know, my point here is life is technically easy mode, but we're all just really bad at it. And I don't know what I think about that. Is that a good thing? Does that say something good about us? Or are we just really bad collectively of life? Because, you know, like I said, a lot of people play on hard mode, and I'm always impressed when like, so whenever I think it's almost like an inspiration when you see like people playing on what is effectively hard mode in life, like, oh yeah, so you might think like, you know, being depressed is hard, but then wait until you see someone who like literally has, you know, unbalanced, you know, like certain mental disorders, like, oh yeah, literally the hormones in my brain are unbalanced so that I cannot be happy, and then they try the hardest anyway, and it's like, oh yeah, and your excuse is like, well, memes or something like that, you know. And yeah, I don't know, this live stream thing went into a weird place, but I hope you all enjoyed it regardless. Oh, because it's a live stream, pretend live stream at least, I'm gonna respond to some pretend comments. So Mr. Kitty Cat 789 says, Toy Cat, you say life is easy, why do you play Minecraft on you know, normal mode then? And it's like, yeah, maybe I should play on hard. You got me there, Mr. Kitty Cats, and Mr. Chew Cats. They've all got cats in the name. So everyone on the live stream, just that we're totally doing right now, they have cats in the name. Says, hey Toy Cat, do you think gravel should be removed forever? Lol lol lol. And to answer it, they're actually okay. You know, can we just real talk very briefly, because this is going up on Thursday. Every now and then, I do get bothered by like stupidity on the internet, I think. And I probably shouldn't let it let me. But like whenever I see like one, this is like a mini form of depression. Whenever I see one like particularly stupid comment, or like maybe it's like young people and I'm being like really offensive, but whenever I see one comment that's just like particularly stupid, I'm like, ah, is everyone like that? That can't be the case. Is that really? Does everyone think that way? And I just wanted to share that feeling with all of you, so that if you are someone who is a real person and has asked a real question ever, or even just, you know, like has said anything supportive and not, you know, because a lot of people only reach out when they have like a question. But if you just say something nice every now and then, I appreciate you so much, because you make me not doubt myself in the mornings. Anyway, this was the weirdest live stream I've ever done. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I guess I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.